The key felt cold, a sliver of ice against Ilara's trembling palm. It was the only thing of Liam's that felt that way. Everything else held his warmth. His favorite armchair, the worn pages of the books he'd read 100 times, the lingering scent of sandalwood and sawdust in his workshop. But this key was different. It belonged to the small, weathered house at the edge of their property, a place he had forbidden her from ever entering. "It's my one secret, Ilara," he had said, his eyes full of a love that wrestled with a shadow she could never name. "Please, just trust me." And she had. For 20 years, she had trusted him. But now, standing in the long afternoon shadows just 3 days after his funeral, trust felt like a ghost, and the secret house stood like a tombstone for the parts of him she never knew. Ilara was a nurse. Her life was a procession of wounds, both visible and invisible. She had spent 2 decades tending to the broken, the fading, and the frightened. She knew the geography of pain, the landscape of loss. Her hands, though gentle, were weathered from holding on to life, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. She had met Liam after a grueling 24-hour shift. He had been building a cabinet for the nurses' station, and his quiet competence was a balm to her chaotic world. He didn't flinch at the stories of her day. He simply listened, his presence a sturdy anchor in the storm of her life. They built a life in the countryside, a haven of soft light and quiet mornings, but always there was the other house. The one he would retreat to for hours, sometimes emerging with a faint smile, other times with a profound sadness in his eyes that he would never explain. Their love was a language spoken in shared glances and quiet gestures. He would leave a cup of tea for her on the nightstand before she woke for her early shifts. She would place a hand on his shoulder as he worked in his main workshop, a silent acknowledgement of his craft. Yet the secret house remained a locked room in the architecture of their intimacy. She imagined all sorts of things, an old heartbreak he couldn't let go of, a hidden illness, a life he had lived before her that he was too ashamed to reveal. The questions were a constant, low hum beneath the surface of their otherwise peaceful existence. Now, in the deafening silence of his absence, the hum had become a roar. The promise she made to him felt like a chain, while the need to understand felt like the only way to breathe again. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird beating its wings against a cage. This felt like a betrayal, a violation of a sacred vow made to the man who had been her entire world. The wind whispered through the pines, sounding like his voice, a gentle admonition. "Trust me, Ilara." But how could she? How could she move forward into a life without him when a piece of his soul remained locked away from her? She saw the complicit silence of the world around her, the swaying trees, the indifferent sky, all guarding his secret. Her grief was a physical weight, pushing her down, but curiosity was a stronger force, pulling her forward, urging her to turn the key. With a deep, shuddering breath, she slid the cold metal into the lock. It was old and stiff. The click of the tumblers turning echoed in the stillness, a sound as final and irreversible as the closing of a casket. The door creaked open, revealing not darkness, but a room bathed in a soft, ethereal light filtering through a large, dusty skylight, and what she saw made her forget to breathe. It was not a den of dark secrets. It was a sanctuary. The room was filled with birds, hundreds of them. They perched on shelves that lined every wall from floor to ceiling. They were carved from wood, each one unique, each one exquisitely detailed. A tiny wren with its head cocked, a majestic eagle with its wings half unfurled, a gentle dove with its eyes closed. They weren't just carvings. They were alive with an energy, a story. A small, handwritten tag was tied to the leg of each bird. Ilara stepped closer to one, her hand shaking as she lifted the tag. It read, "Mrs. Gable, room 302, January 12th. She loved to watch the sparrows outside her window." Her breath hitched. Mrs. Gable was a patient she had lost a decade ago. She moved to another bird, a soaring hawk. Mr. Chen, room 214, May 3rd. He said he wanted to fly away from it all. One by one, she read the tags. Each was a name she recognized, a soul she had cared for, a life she had mourned. A sob escaped her lips, raw and broken. This was not a monument to a secret life. It was a monument to hers. For 20 years, every time she came home with the ghost of a lost patient in her eyes, every time her heart broke for a life she couldn't save, Liam had retreated to this house. He took her unspoken grief, her silent pain, and he carved it into something beautiful. He gave her sorrow's wings. He built a wall not to shut me out, but to hold my sorrow for me. Every soul I mourned, he had given wings. In the center of the room, on a workbench, sat a single, unfinished bird, a beautiful, powerful swan, its neck only partially carved. There was no tag. It didn't need one. She knew it was for him. In his silence, he heard my heart breaking, and in his secret, he was trying to mend it. The tears came then, not of grief, but of a love so profound, so complete, it transcended death itself. She picked up his carving knife, the handle still holding his warmth, and knew she would finish the swan for him, for her silent hero. Some battles are fought in the quietest corners of the heart. The greatest acts of love are often the ones we never see. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Subscribe for more stories that honor the silent heroes who walk among us.